Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shaman's Way podcast. As always, this episode comes from the teachings of our amazing friend and shaman in residence, Kriket. We hope you're enjoying these podcasts as much as we enjoy making them, and I'd like to take just a moment to ask you if you would please leave us a rating and a comment in iTunes or whichever podcast player you're listening to us from. Giving us a rating and sharing this podcast with others is the biggest way you can tell us that you like our show. Now, without further ado, on with the episode.
Hello, my constant listeners, and hello to my semi-constant listeners, and a most special welcome to my very first time listeners. I know I say that every time, but seriously, thank you to all the ears that have listened. We are so close to episode 100. I'm kind of nervous. What is 100 going to be? You might be asking that. Maybe not, but I am. So this is a journey for me as well. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about today. What I wanted to talk about is how to choose a shaman or how to choose a healer. Now, this was prompted by my wanting to read different articles on what people were actually saying about how to find a shaman or how to find a healer, how to spot the charlatans. I've read a lot of those different kinds of articles over the years, and sometimes I cringe, and sometimes I think, well, yeah, that's a good point. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to give you Kriket's criteria on choosing a healer, because this is what I look for when I seek someone to take on the different things that I might be going through in my personal life or in my healing world. The first thing that I look for is training. I think we all have a great relationship to our spirits, and many of us work very intuitively. However, as much as Spirit has taught me, which is a great deal, I've learned more directly from Spirit than I have from specific teachers. It is invaluable to experience shamanic teaching, shamanic information, shamanic methods, the structure of something. It always helps to listen to another person's wisdom, to accept another person's wisdom. I generally try to find out what their training has been and what modalities they have or have not studied. As my constant listeners know, I don't dabble in a lot of other modalities, so I would look for someone that doesn't dabble in a whole lot of modalities, however, would spend more time and more patience delving more deeply into one thing or another thing. I like to look through web pages, I'm sure as many of us do, and I look for what their methods are. Now, I know that on my own website, I have different articles that outline some of the work of extraction work, depossession work, curses. I've done some podcasts on those. So some of the things that I do and some of my methods certainly are out in the public, in the view. But I also know that there are many other practitioners who have not developed a platform to share their information or their knowledge in the same manner that I have. I do like to read through what they are specifically trained to do. I also look for very specific websites that will list practitioners in other areas. If a practitioner has taken the time to list themselves on a service directory, it means that, from my perspective, it means that they are more willing to be out in public, and that likely they have some training behind them, because they would have generally heard about the specific websites from people who've taken workshops with them. So those are two of the back doorways that I like to look for an individual. We all like websites. I don't really care about how fancy or a lot of graphics are. I'm content orientated. I am a content orientated person, first of all and foremost. So those are two of the things that I find very important and invaluable for me. The other aspect that I look for is experience. I think you cannot undervalue word of mouth. Someone has an experience, they're going to talk about that experience. So in being in this community, in my location for as many years as I have, I've had my ear to the ground for a long time, and I hear different names. I hear lots of different experiences with different names, and I've seen a lot of names come and go over time and rise and move out, rise and move out. And that has to do with the common ebb and flow of any community. What I look for is someone who has staying power. Again, that's going to go back to my perspective of training and methods. So you can see a pattern developing here, obviously. I think that if I'm going to put my soul, my body, my mind, my psyche in the hands of another human being, I want to make sure that that human being has even a modicum of ability to ensure that when I walk out, I am walking out healthy and not disturbed or not harmed in some way. Not that I think many people are going to be able to harm you or anything along those lines. Like, I realize that I sound like a real hard ass right now. And sometimes I am just a fucking hard ass. Like, you know me. If you don't know me that, well, hello, this is me. So I mean to get back on track. I won't go off on a tangent too much. So you're getting the idea or the point. I'm making a pattern here, but I'm going to break the pattern, maybe just a little bit, because I wanted to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. And what I look for and what I think is invaluable in a healer is empowerment. Can my healer empower me? Does my healer, is he or she or they able to reflect back to me how to stand strongly in my healing, how to integrate the work, how to move forward, and how to utilize what I've received or what I've opened myself up to. In having my Akashic records read, the individual who read for me, he was very empowering in his words and making sure that what he was reading and so on and so forth was able to give to me a sense of my own sense of self. I find that empowering an individual in my healing room is probably the most potent of the medicines that I can give. I believe that the common practice, I'm going to deviate just a little bit to talk about that one small aspect of shamanism, especially neo-shamanism, modern shamanism, is the ability to do all the work for your own self. And one thing that I try to pass to not only my students, but to those who walk through my doors for healing work is how to, or at least have the possibility to continue to do the healing journey of their own and on their own way. I think that we can have incredible experiences and God shots and woo, that was fantastic. I mean, I've certainly walked out of some sessions just in bliss, sometimes high as a kite, not on psychotropics. I mean, this is conservative Edmonton we're talking about. So just that wonderful euphoria of energy to energy or heart to heart connection or soul to soul connection. Sometimes that's incredibly invigorating. And as much as that God shot is, delicious and, just some of the most nourishing energy that we can bring into ourselves, how do I then incorporate that, empower myself to keep that change? Or did that change integrate with me? Did I come with an intention? And does my healer know what empowerment feels like? So I have certainly had experiences where the person that I felt drawn to really did not have a great concept or a great language for empowerment. However, I'm also a very, I can take care of myself also, same as you can. So take what you need from a person's words and take some responsibility for your own empowerment. But there has to be that type of relationship or that beginning of relationship. So the training, the methods, their experience. Do they have a lot of experience doing something? There are some things in experience that we all have new experience. As a healer, no two sessions are ever the same. No two soul retrieval journeys are the same or ever could be the same, for lots of reasons. So I want to be able to have a new experience generally with each person, because each person is having a new experience with me. So I like to engage in what is unique for their experience. So I like to be engaged into what was unique with their experience with me, if indeed anything was. I'm not saying, that anything is going to be unique. Not every healer operates the same way, those sorts of things, taking that into play. But these are the things that I'm looking for. The things that you look for or how you interpret these things are entirely up to you. The next thing that I want to talk about are specialties. If you are on someone's website and they talk about soul retrieval, find out what they mean by soul retrieval. I think soul retrieval has broadened over the years to encompass different ways to bring soul pieces back. I know that there are different ideas on what is a soul loss. Is it an actual thing, or is it, just a part of psyche has shut down? For me, it is an actual thing. It isn't an aspect of psyche just shutting down. For not everything that happens with the encapsulation of self. There has to be other than self, the end, self and something else. So with regard to the specialties, I have specific training for compassionate depossession. I have very specific training for soul retrieval work. Did I learn how to do soul retrieval work prior to studying with Sandra Ingerman? Yes, I did. However, if someone asked me to explain how I did a soul retrieval prior to taking the work with Sandra Ingerman, I would have had no problem at all outlining the steps and what could be or could not be the experience, what is the intention of the experience. I could go through the steps that I take, the steps that the person receiving the soul pieces have, the responsibility they have in that moment, and then the ceremony after. So the taking of the 5-day intensive with Sandra was a very potent medicine to learn how other people work, how other people have relationship with spirit. But so what is your idea of soul retrieval? I know that for some people within the healing modality, whether they be art healers, whether they be psychotherapists, there may not be an acceptance of a soul piece breaking off and coming back and being a piece that is separate from, yet still connected to. There's a whole philosophy of that, which I've explored a bit in my soul retrieval podcast. So I don't want to go off too deeply. So I think it's invaluable to try to figure out what is it that you specifically think a soul retrieval is and how would it best work for you. If you are a person that is really has a better relationship to a visual experience or a guided meditation, and you don't find very much experience or very much help with just the sound of the drum as a means of meditation and trance, then perhaps you would seek a healer who does guided meditations. I have experienced a soul retrieval with a guided meditation, and I didn't, because I'm so used to my training, my method, my experience, my specialty, I didn't find it have nearly as impactful. But do I just not find it nearly as impactful because because I'm narrow-minded? That's where I am as equally a part of my experience as someone else is. So I have my own blinders on. I have my own things. I'm not trying to indicate that what you experience is, lesser than. I mean, they're equal experiences. It is just what kind of experience are you specifically looking for? What kind of experience fits within the eye set, the mindset, the spirit set that you have given for yourself? Another specialty is compassionate depossession. And I have taken a specific training for my modality from a teacher, Betsy Bergstrom, who I've talked about before and I've mentioned before, and her links are on Shaman's Way already. So, and I've also experienced compassionate depossession or depossession in another form, but again, I did not find it as impactful as the way that I engage. And again, here I come into my own ideas, and that stopped me, my own ideas for what I think should happen. So perhaps yourself, if you have more of a beginner's eye than I do, you may have access to far different and more illuminating experiences than myself, who has narrowed her vision of reality and my vision of spirituality through the years. I mean, it's quite wide, but it is narrow in some regards. I'm not blind to my own self any more than you should be blind to yourself. So if they do offer specialties, investigate what type of training they have for it, because the working with the intricacies of the soul can have effects that you may not necessarily know about until a few months later upon reflection or looking through the rearview mirror. I think that if we have a willingness to have someone work on our soul, it seems to me, from my perspective, that I would take that very seriously. For I guard what I hold most precious. I guard it very well because I know from my own personal experience, just not only as a healer, but as a participant and a person who has done many trances and journeys, that the ability for the soul to be wounded does exist. And whether that's the intention or not is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. You can be hurt in spiritual work. So do your own due diligence. I really like to have, because I'm a storyteller, I like to have a story. What I want to know is, can the person who is doing journey work on my behalf, can they figure out what spirit is telling them to do, and where is my journey? Now, I haven't met anyone who's done shamanic trance work or journey work with me who can't figure out what spirit told them to do and what spirit has told them to do. But one of the aspects of doing this type of work is sometimes you experience or see things in the journey that you don't always know quite how to communicate to the recipient. So for that, what do you want from your healer? So if you're looking for somebody who wants to share the story with you, what kind of stories are you able to accept? So be aware that when someone is going to respond back the journey, the healing story for you, that the story of their journey does have an impact on you, but kind of also know that there may be some shadow things, there may be some darker aspects or some experiences that may not be comfortable to hear, or that sort of thing. But does your healer take care of you during that story? Can the healer couch it in a language that doesn't impact you in a negative manner, undoing some of the healing work that has been done? That's, I think, a very important part of the story, or a very important part of the healing How do you have the healing story? How do you receive the information, the visions, the images, the sounds, the scents, the aromas? How do you receive those from the person who's working on your behalf? That's important. It's important to absorb as much as you can. So we have training, we have the methods, we have experience, empowerment, the specialties, and we have, the healing story. Another aspect to the healing work from my perspective is being a gay woman, a lesbian, a dyke, whatever you would like to say. I personally like to say I'm a human being who likes human beings, however, irrelevant. Acceptance. There are many wonderful expressions of human beings in the world, and many wonderful human beings come to us in different arrays and frays of society. So, and also self-healing and health. Are you comfortable walking through someone's door, being accepted for your whole story or whatever portion of the story that is? Do you have a story that you have difficulty sharing? And can you feel comfortable sharing your story? If you share your story, is it going to be comfortable for that person to accept you for who you are? Can they accept how you look? Can they accept how, do you feel judged in some way? That's also an important part of it. So if there is a word of tongue or word of mouth with respect to the person that you're seeking, maybe ask some questions. Is this person open? Does this person have an open mind? Are there limitations in this person's personality? You don't know. I mean, we really don't know. I've never run across that I can, personally, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that it hasn't occurred. I just haven't noticed it. So I think that also when I go through another healer's door, I also have to be in full acceptance of where I am at this moment, even if I don't necessarily understand what's going on and I want some help in determining how I feel or what I feel. I think that I need to stand in the place of self-awareness, and I need to stand in the place of self-acceptance. I need to stand in a place of clarity, asking for insight, asking for wisdom. Because I obviously need some work, or I need some answers, or I need to be shown a different part of the path. So it's incumbent upon me to also come into a healer's space with openness. It's unusual that someone steps into my space with skepticism, but I have had skepticism walk through my door. And the first couple of times that I experienced skepticism walking through my door, I have to admit it did throw me off. I wasn't quite sure how to do it. And it also then colored how I viewed the next people walking through my door, either that day or later in the time. So where are you when you walk through the door for the healer that you're going to see? What is your level of acceptance? Do you know some of the issues that you've been chawing on? You must, or you wouldn't be at that door. Can you articulate those? Can you articulate what your intention is, what your goal would be? And I really do think that some of us are caught by a whim. I've been caught by many a whim, like, oh, I think I'm going to go, here and get some craniosacral done, or I'm going to go here and get some of this work done. So sometimes there are those whims where the spirit just asks you to go do something. So there's that. So can I accept that part of me? Acceptance is a big part of healing work because it's a two-way street. But if I don't stand in a place of accepting my own self, it's kind of impossible for me to ask somebody to accept me, or for me to accept, or accept that they accept me. Gosh, that sounds silly, doesn't it? There's got to be a better way of saying that. Hopefully I get my point across. So I'll stop harping on acceptance, because I think I've certainly drilled that home or brought that home to us. I find that if I have an idea of what is going on for myself when I seek healer, then I can better let them know what it is that I'm specifically seeking work with. And oftentimes for me, I will find a healer that works in a physical modality, because what has gone on in my spiritual or mental modality or bodies has come out in my physical. And I feel oftentimes that my body is quite indicative of what I've been walking on, what I've been going through, and how it manifests itself. So I know that if I have this particular issue with my right shoulder, then I need to see this particular type of healer, that particular type of healer, because they know how to manipulate the energy that's stuck there. And I think that my body, your body, we get plugged up energetically. We are blocked energetically. We are stuck with patterns. We're stuck with ways of thinking. I've indicated my own patterns throughout our discussion here. And I think it's important for me to see what my patterns are, because they're also my blind spots. And if I want to work with somebody else, I want them to be aware of where my blind spots are, because I think it is invaluable to receive insight into something that you either can't see for yourself, or you, because of skill or depth, or you are unwilling to look at for yourself alone, because sometimes there are things that go on within our soul, within ourself, that we feel alone in trying to deal with, or we feel alone in trying to work with. So sometimes even just having a witness to what we are experiencing is healing in and of itself. To be able to share a story without judgment, or without feeling as though you need to make reasons for, oh, I was feeling this way because, or la la la, so justification. You shouldn't have to justify your story. You should be able to openly express whatever part of the story you're willing to share, because trust does come in bits and pieces for some people, and for other people trust is an immediate energetic relationship, or an immediate energetic experience, relating and relatable. So that is part of the relationship that I have with the word acceptance. I also know that I have talked about ethics in the past, and I think it is important to mention them again. For ethics are, for me, incredibly important. Is the person you're seeing, do they have good boundaries? Are they respectful? Are they quote unquote professional? Whatever that is, whatever that is. And whatever it is that you can accept. There are certainly times when my personality is quite large and quite out there. And so I know that I can't open the door that way, because not everybody not everybody wants a fox jumping all over them, asking them how they are, running around their feet and swishing their tail, So the calm fox walks up, and peacefully waits for someone to follow me down the path, down the hall, and into the healing room, or into the den of my healing. So, there's different parts of my own self. And so that's a part of boundaries. Am I able to put myself, am I able to put my own self into a space where I can be received well by the healer that's going to see me? I don't mean that if I'm feeling angry, or if I'm feeling super upset, that I try and tighten all of that energy in so that I don't interfere with the energy of the healer. I don't think that at all, because I think if you're on the other side of the door receiving somebody as in the role of healer, then you have to be able to accept that person as they are. and whatever as they are means, whether there is a mental illness, whether there's physical illness, whether there's terminal illness, or there's spiritual crisis, whatever is walking through the door, the healer should be in that place already to receive, to accept, and to be able to allow that energy to move through them or move out of them, or not really be plussed by them, to be nonplussed by whatever's walking through the door. So I don't mean that I put a towel around my energetic self so that I don't harm another person. However, if I'm going for a specific thing, I try to focus and put my attention there, and hopefully will awaken some of the intuition. So what does this have to do with ethics? I think that it's important, it's ethically important for me to be the authentic self that I am. And it's ethical for the healer that I'm walking in to see that they also stand in their authentic self. And how much of your authentic self do you bring into a healing, and how much of your authentic self do you see of others? So there's that aspect of it too, right? So authenticity and ethics, I think, are very, very important. So I think most important, we've gone through all of this, but the important thing is, what is your intention? What is your intention when you walk through that door? Do you want to walk out feeling more peaceful? Do you want to walk out feeling less painful? Do you want to walk out with questions answered? Do you want to la 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 la? Right? You get the point? So what is your intention? And if you can't formulate it before you get through the door, perhaps after sitting with your healer and talking for a bit and doing some free flow discussion, or maybe your healer practices active listening, just giving you space to speak out loud, form your opinions, and, just then formulate your intention or what it is that you're hoping to find. And what is your process looking for somebody? Is your process a long process? Do you go through the methodical way of searching for somebody the way that I go through it? Or are you also like the impulsive part of me that goes up on a whim and says, oh, I'm going to go do this, or oh, I'm going to go do that, right? So what is the process that you go through to choose a healer, to work with a healer, to be, in that space and place? And so I think it's important that we also practice our own point of self-awareness. Not only do we practice our own point of self-awareness, but also practice your own cleanliness, spiritual cleanliness. So for me, this is just as a little off point, not specifically about how to choose a shaman or how to choose a healer. But do you take steps to ensure that your body is clear? Or, for me, I use salt. I've talked about that in various podcasts. So, if I'm going for healing work, I will use salt in my car and on my door. If I'm going for a massage or craniosacral, then I don't do that as much, because it's not specifically delving deeply into my soul, rather working through my exoskeleton or, the armor that I've put on to do the work. So I like healers who can help me break that armor and shake it off and just be free of, whatever I've put upon myself. And so that's a physical healer. But if I'm going for a spiritual healer, I don't know specifically what their house is like or their office is like. So I do like to have my pendants with me. I do like to say, my own sets of prayers or ideas before I walk through that door, to ensure my own psychic cleanliness, to ensure that whatever is in that space doesn't come with me unless it's invited. Because I know that I have an ability to pick things up, and sometimes things are attracted to me that I wish weren't attracted to me. So it's important for me to not blame somebody else, but take care of my own stuff. And I'm important enough to take care of myself. I also have the tools, and you have tools. They can be very simple tools. if you're a smudger, if you're coming back from healing or you're going to healing, I'd like to do this after coming back. I like to smudge myself, and then I also like to smudge the bottom of my feet. So to clear the path or to clear where I've walked. So there are ways of keeping your own self psychically clean, and I think that's important. So I hope that this has been a little informative and that I've shared some of my ideas, and perhaps you will someday find someone that is who you want to be with. But always remember, not everyone is your healer. I'm not everybody's healer. I am not everybody's teacher. I am not everybody's shaman. And whoever you walk into, keep in mind, that may not be your healer. I don't mind people who phone me ahead of time because then they get a sense of me. And I will often end the conversation, if you don't feel like working with me, don't feel that you have to. I don't want to pressure anybody into working with me, and I don't want to feel pressured into working with anybody either. I think that it's important to know that you can't be everything to everyone, and everyone can't be everything to me. There is discernment in spirit. There is discernment in energy. There's not always a matching of ideas, ideologies, or personalities. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just is what it is. Healers are not this amazing group of human beings who are, what's the word I'm looking for? Who are not harmed or whatever. I can't remember what I was going to say. So I'm going to stop it there because I'm going off on a tangent. And you know that I love my tangents. And I'm certainly going to go off the rails on this one. So thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for giving me your ear. And thank you for sharing, I know, your incredibly valuable time with me. And until we meet around the microphone again, or in your car, or in your home, or on your phone, wherever my voice meets your ear, thank you. Thank you for giving me the time and the space to be with you. And I look forward to our next conversation. Okay, until then, see ya!
Thank you again for joining us here on the Shaman's Way podcast. If you have any questions, would like to make a request for a future episode, or if you're looking for other shamanic resources, including free drumming tracks, please visit us at shamansway.net. Until the next episode, be well, everyone.